Hi guys, I've got some exciting news. The WPT has given me a bunch of golden passports, and these are free $2,500 seats into the big $5 million free roll that they're doing at the Wynn on December 13th during the WPT Championship. All you have to do to get into the drawing where I'll be giving away these golden passports is head over to ClubWPTGOLD.com, sign up and verify, and use the code Bart. More information about this contest in the links in the description. Let's move here to Ryan, who I believe actually called in that 3-5 of spades. Was it 3-5 of spades hand from last week, Ryan?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Bart?
All right, Ryan. So you are playing out of, let me try to guess here. What was that last week? I don't remember. Where are you playing out of?
St. Louis.
Oh, that's right. St. Louis.
At Hollywood.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So St. Louis, Hollywood. Are you playing 2-5 or what?
So generally here in St. Louis we play 2-3. That's
Right.
kind of the bigger game. But last week it was just 2-5 because it was three-handed. So this is actually 2-3-6. What it is.
Okay. So is it a straddle?
Yeah, it's an under the gun straddle, and it is match the stack.
So it's a mandatory. It's a third blind game, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And that really just kind of changes. There's not really any rhyme or reason to it, but. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, so 2-3-6 under mandatory straddle.
What a game!
Match a stack. So it's actually a pretty fun game.
Oh man, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's like we talk about New Hampshire started doing these 1-3 matches. I haven't gotten up there, but I mean, a lot of times matches, people want to put more. It reminds me of Texas. I lived in Austin for 2 years. As a match the stack, you get 2,500. People want to put on the mandatory straddle. Now all of a sudden, you're playing like a $6 blind game at like 2K effective. It's great. What's the rake or time here too with this thing in St. Louis?
I haven't played as much recently. This game's actually from like 7 or 8 months ago, but up until then it was up to $5 or $6 rake, up to 5%, then $1 drops. The rake's actually really good too.
Okay. And how deep are you for this hand?
So this is 2,300 effective.
All right, so 2,300 effective, 2-3-6. Okay.
Yeah. So the middle position open to 25, which is pretty standard in the game. Nothing too crazy. And then the cutoff and the button make a call. So 2 pulled callers, and then I'm in the small blind, 7 of clubs and 7 of hearts.
So hero in the small blind with
7 of spades, 7 of hearts.
7 of spades, 7 of hearts. So MP to 25, cutoff and button call. Now I know you said 2,300 effective. Can you just give us? Is it with the MP guy or?
So it's actually with the guy in the cutoff, but the MP guy and the button, they're both probably about 1,500-1,600.
All right. So everybody's kind of deep because this one's close, right? This one's close. Whether you not, I mean, I'm not going to fold at this stack depth. I'm saying it's close whether you say 3-bet here as a squeeze. So it's a 25 open. That's a 4x open. I mean, maybe that's standard the whole time. And you've got these loose callers in between. It's really, really close. I mean, a lot of times I might say like 8s plus. Like, what would you have done with 6s and below here?
I mean, I still kind of randomize a little bit. I'm definitely more aggressive pre-flop than other people. 7s are really on the cusp for me, and it's a lot of kind of like game flow, as you've talked about in podcasts. Some tables you want to squeeze, other tables you just want to flat, depending on like your table image and how you're running, and just whether there's whales or whatever in the game.
So, what did you decide to do here?
So I decided a 3-bet, and looking back at it, I was actually kind of small. I made it 150, but I definitely think I could make it like 175, 180.
Well, if you do 4x plus the dead calls, that'd
be
150. Yeah. That's 150, but you guys are really deep, right? And usually the deeper you get, the more sort of reflection of a larger size. Well, it's a really interesting one. The shallower you are, you'll see some huge 3-bet sizes, like from online stuff to cut out the sort of the set mining types of things. And then you're kind of at an in-between sizing. So you still kind of go a little bit larger from my position. And then when you get super deep, you actually are incentivized to keep this pot small. So you're saying you could have gone a little bit larger. All right, you go to 150.
Yeah, so the interesting that happens is the MP, the original opener, he makes a fold.
Okay.
And the cutoff calls.
Okay.
But then the button folds. So the guy in the middle makes the call, but the other 2 guys fold.
This is a double flat. Anybody talk
Correct.
about?
Yeah, he double flatted.
Yeah, this is a double flat. So, I mean, it's an MP open and then the cut. So it's somewhat of a mid position versus late position type of thing. And again, you can go back to baseline in theory, as I've always talked about this, is that like if you're in a situation like you are in the cutoff in a 3-blind game, you should be doing more 3-betting than flatting. Like if you're playing by a chart, like there should be way more there should be more 3-bets than a standard 2-blind game. And even too, like on the button where you have a lot of flats, you still should be 3-betting more. And that's just because you've got more blinds in the hand here that might complete. So definitely somewhat of a collapse range here from the cutoff, just flat calling. I don't know if you know anything about this guy, but
Yeah, I mean, I've played a little bit with him. I would definitely say more fishy. I think personally, maybe I'm wrong. He thinks he can flat more in later position, even though there's still basically what 4 more guys to act. But that's just my assumption. I could be wrong on that.
So it looks like it's 350, right? 150 times
Yep,
2. Yep.
that's correct.
All right,
Yep.
so 350 to the flop, okay.
So the flop comes ace of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 8 of clubs.
Well, that's interesting. This is definitely one that's interesting because, you've basically whiffed here, right? You've got a little bit of a backdoor here on the bottom side. And I don't know, this isn't off the top of my head. I don't think that this texture is always necessarily like 100% bet as a C bet, as a 3-bet. It's not like it's like 8 ace deuce 6 rainbow. You know what I mean? So if it's not bet at 100% and there's some checks and maybe some check folds, I would kind of think that maybe your hand is leaning a lot towards a check fold. The other thing too is you're usually not going to see people, even in theory, if it is sometimes correct, like start a bluff here with like a lower pair. When you start to look at like a double flat range, like say the guy's got like 4s or 3s or something like that, sometimes those guys are actually supposed to start a bluff like 3s or 4s with a diamond on a board like this when check 2. You never see that in live play. So I don't even know if you're going to get bluffed off the hand if you necessarily check. And it seems to me that I might actually be doing a lot of check folding here with 7-7, 7 of spades, 7 of hearts.
Yeah, looking back at it, I definitely think I should have checked, but my kind of standard in 3-bet pots on even kind of boards like this, I'll just go like a single 1/3, just heads up. Maybe it's a leak in my game, but that's kind of what I default to. So I ended up betting 125, which is just over a third of the pot.
Now, people in the live chat are saying range, this is C-bet range, C-bet range. I could be wrong. Again, I'll be the first to admit that I don't have the boards necessarily memorized like in my head, like a lot of solver savants do. But I understand the theory behind it. I would be surprised if this is a range bet on ace 10-8 with a 2 flush, just because like the barreling. If you're okay, so if you bet 7s here for 125, are you double barreling with like bricks and just starting a hand as a bluff, like let's say like on an offsuit deuce or something like that?
Yeah, I think on an offsuit deuce or a 3 or something like that, I would definitely start a double barrel on opponents I think would fold, at least, kind of being a little bit exploitative. And to kind of go back into people saying it's a range bet, even though I did range bet, though, is, this board hits him probably a lot harder than me just because he can have lots of pocket 10s and pocket 8s. Because he may flat a lot of 10s in the cutoff, too. Just like I said, he's a little fishier, so that may not be a 3-bet for him.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can get on board with that. There's a comment in here. Christian M says, or somebody said, if we're just check folding when we miss the flop, Ramsey or Romero, then we shouldn't be 3-betting pre. No, we're not just check folding just because we missed the flop. It has to do with texture and the ranges. And also, too, the parts of what we think our opponent's ranges that calls here, and that what would start a bluff and what wouldn't start a bluff. That was my contention. Okay,
Yeah.
so you bet 125 and he calls?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, so the double flatter calls. And now you are at 600, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 600, yep.
So the turn's a pretty interesting card, also really good, though. It's a 7 of clubs.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So we turn the bottom set.
Yeah.
It brings in Jack 9 and backdoor clubs, but I think it's still a great card. a bit interesting, but I think really, I mean, obviously the great, best card for us almost, I would say.
Yeah. So you turn a set here. Again, hero 3-bet, MP open, cutoff call, button called. Hero 3-bets 7-7 out of the small blind, a 150, and he's heads up against the cutoff. C-bets the flop here on ace 10 8, front door diamonds call. Turns a 7 of clubs, brings in jack 9. Yeah, brings in jack 9, but that's about it. Now, you say that there's a possibility you could possibly be overset here, but I mean, there's a lot of other combinations of hands, right?
Yeah, but I would think if I was overset, there's decent percentage of chance he raises me on the flop. Not always, not always at all, but especially with him in position too. You know, you always see those guys just trying to, you know, just wait to get the money in on the river, right?
Well, I mean, you guys started 20. I mean, this is the guy that you started with 2,300 with. So, I mean,
correct. Yeah, you would think he would want to get the money in at some point too.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily a card. You know, we talk about sometimes you have to manipulate pots and do some interesting things to get more money in the pot in certain situations. But I don't think this is one of the cards where like you think about possibly going for a check raise or something like that. It's got nothing to do with the fact that Jack 9 comes in. It just has to do with the fact that you might check some ace X types of holdings here. You might check some hands here that you're not folding to. So that doesn't mean that the opponent might be pot controlling some ace X here too. Where I do that is like in really sort of extreme situations where we wouldn't really check like strong hands all that much on the turn, and our opponent would probably bet off a lot of top pair. That's when you can start to think about going for check raises. Here, I probably just continue to bet.
Yeah, so I bet straight pot. I bet 600.
Yeah, okay. So small blind. So hero bets 600.
What do you think about the bet size?
I mean, I think close to pot is fine. I don't, whether it's like over bet. See, the other thing too is that you could have some like over bet double barrels here with like, big draws here too, like king jack of clubs, king queen of clubs, queen jack of clubs, stuff like that. I'm trying to think about the way, because this guy's sort of, his range is somewhat collapsed in the sense that he shouldn't really have ace king or ace queen here, given the pre-flop action. How does he respond if he has like a suited ace here? So ace jack, say he double flatted with ace jack, picks up a gut shot. Ace 9 is open-ended. Ace 6 even picks up a gut shot here. I just always don't want to necessarily lose a guy with ace X, but it doesn't seem like he's got those big aces anyway. So, I think that you could take a large sizing here and get called by some of these draws. And a lot of these pairs have straight draws too.
I think the problem with overbetting, at least with hands such as would be a good combo draw for me here, like say like queen jack of clubs or something, is if I overbet here, I'm not leaving him with enough on the river to potentially fold.
So
because if he's calling 600, right, even about like 800, right, he's only gonna have about 1100-ish left, and the pot's gonna be like 1900, 2000. You know?
Right. So you don't want to use that sizing because if you had a combo draw, it's either going to be, if you use that sizing, it's just a give up right at the end. Like you have two things. Like if you
100%, yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it would be like you go large, you hope he folds, but then when he calls, there's probably not enough on a brick. Or you can take somewhat of a smaller sizing, which in this case might be pot.
Then go large on the river.
Leave yourself some fold equity at the end. Okay, so you bet 600 here. Yeah,
and he calls.
So cutoff calls.
He calls pretty quickly too. I'm not really into much of tells, but kind of into bet timing tells, as you've always kind of talked about. Saying he called pretty quickly for whatever that's worth.
You have about 1,400 left here, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that his hand is definitely skewed towards draw here. For the same things that I talked about.
And I thought the same thing in the moment.
Yeah. So 1,800 here. And obviously, like, if you, this is interesting here too, Ryan, because like it's, if you listen to the last call on the live stream, this is like, well, I mean, I've got, let's say that the river is like the deuce of hearts, like the biggest brick in the world. Like I've set up like a nice little bet. The only thing about this though, is we keep talking through this pre-flop too, the collapsed like range, and maybe it skews him towards more having draws. He's not gonna have like ace king, ace queen. He hasn't really raised us off. Would you ever consider on the deuce of hearts actually checking to look like you gave up to give the guy the opportunity to bet? It would there to check call as a busted draw. Would there be more value in actually taking a brick deuce and actually check calling with it as opposed to, say, ripping it when we don't really think he's got ace king ace queen because of preflop?
So you kind of took the words out of my mouth. That's actually something I love to do when everything bricks.
Mm-hmm.
I will check from out of the position and I will basically snap off any bet. Even with like something like if I like a pair of maybe like a pair of tens or pocket jacks here where I just know they're probably not ever betting an ace, if that makes sense.
Right. But again, you don't want to overdo this. Most of the time, when
Oh, of
you
course,
when you
yeah.
unblock top pair, if you were against somebody else who was the pre-flop raiser and you flopped like a set of eights and you check raised him, and you want to keep betting because he's going to have those big aces. But it's just here because he's a double flatter pre and he's just skews towards a lot of draws. Okay, 1800 to the river. You got 1400 left. Okay.
So it's a pretty interesting river. It's a six of clubs.
Oh, wow. So the six of clubs come in for a final board of ace of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 7 of clubs, 6 of clubs. Now, not only does that put a one-liner out there to a 9, but you've got backdoor clubs coming in. So anything that's like the 10x of clubs, ace x of little clubs, or some sort of suited Broadway, right? That has clubs that continues on the turn. King, jack of clubs, king, queen of clubs, queen, jack of clubs, which by the way was double gutted on the flop. Those are some pretty big hands though. I mean, who knows how this guy's plays, but if I'm in a situation and I'm the cutoff, I'm not doing a whole lot of double flatting in a spot like this. Like if I had one of those hands and I turned clubs, and I'm either going to pick up like a 15 out draw or, a big draw, I will have a raise frequency for sure on the turn. So I'm just pointing that out that he didn't raise. Not always, right? But he didn't raise turn. So obviously.
And just knowing this guy, I definitely do think he has some raises with clubs, both actually on the flop and the turn. Not always, but there's definitely some frequency there where I played against him and I've seen some hands he showed up with where I've just kind of been just shocked is a better way to put it.
Well, I mean, as we keep stating in this hand, because I feel like his hand is a lot of draw skewed, like it's really, really draw skewed here, I don't see the point in betting here because like ace x of clubs has run into it. So I think this is played better as a check and evaluate. I mean, I guess if he has ace 3 of hearts and he checks back, you're like, oh, because you can get in one of these spots where you bet the river and you still get called by a wide range because they think you're polarized. But it just seems like he's very draw heavy here.
Even if I was going to bet, what sizing would you do?
Yeah, it's real hard to.
Right. I think it's either like a block.
Well, it's like 400 or 500.
Like
it's like
I can't. Yeah, I can't go like 700, and if he jams, I'm just I just have to kind of side call it off just to the pot odds. So I think it's like a $400 bet. Or
well, I mean,
jam.
if you bet 500 here and then he jammed for 14 total, the pot would be what 37.9 for you to call. It's
kind of hard to fold at that point.
I don't know. Really?
I mean, maybe. I really hate folding getting 9 or 4-1.
Yeah.
But I definitely do see where you're coming from. But
so did you check?
Yeah, I checked. I mean, when I saw the card, I checked
Mm-hmm.
almost instantly. Within 3 or 4 seconds. Then he took about 5 seconds or so, and then just ripped it for the remaining 1400.
So wait a minute, he ripped it for 1400.
Yeah, he ripped the rest
Okay.
in whatever the
so cut off,
yeah.
cut off
14, 13, whatever it was. Yeah,
all in for 1400. I mean, this is a shitty spot, right? It's a shitty spot because I assume even when guys like check back a lot of strong hands here, like any idiot really should be able to rip a 9 here, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
If he had a hand like I'm even just saying like
he has to have hands like let's see here,
10-9,
like 8-9 or 10-9,
10-9
right?
suited or 9x of diamonds, right?
You could also have Jack-9 too. That just didn't raise the turn.
Yep, but
I don't think he ever has any more pocket 10s or pocket 8s. I think those raise off either on the flop or the turn.
Yeah, I don't think I think
Would you agree with that?
not only that, but like, does he like? If a guy is just most of the time, if a guy's got like set of 8s here or set of 10s and he's just calling turn, let's say he's got a set of 8s, he's doing that defensively, I feel like, not necessarily as a slow play. Look how wet the board is. He's doing it defensively because he's scared that you have aces or 10s if he has a set of 8s. So
I agree.
So when you look at that, like that doesn't lead me to think that a guy who plays 8-8 defensively is going to jam this river. Right? On a 1-liner to a 9.
Like I said, I eliminated those right away.
Yeah.
And I even think Jack 9 raises the turn.
Yeah.
Even sometimes it raises even the flop, right?
Yeah, and again, so John A in the live chat says, yeah, when we check, we put ourselves in hell, I think, unless we're playing on check folding. But that's the thing, though. Like we did a call. I mean, I remember a hand from last week where the guy, like, you could say, made a bad call with jacks against like a lag, like he was confused against a lag. And one of the things he had said, and I'll link to it here in the video too, I think we named it like, don't make this mental mistake or something like this, because I truly believe it's a mental mistake. It's not, you're not checking the river. Like, it's not a mistake to check the river because you're going to face a large bet. Like, if checking the river is the right, you don't want to not check to prevent yourself from facing a large bet. You look at the situation, you calculate the pot odds, and you figure out whether or not you can call, right? And then if the other alternative is blocking the river, but blocking has to be called by worse for it to be correct. So you can't just say, oh, well, checking the river's a mistake because you're going to face a large bet. No, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? It's not a thing. You got to look at the situation. Checking, evaluating very well might be the right play. And I actually think it is the right play in Ryan's case. Now, do I find a call here? Do we have any background about this guy whatsoever?
He's definitely fishy. And like I said, we've spent some time together, and he's raised me pretty light on the flop. Where I had the best hand, he showed me his hand. It was like just like I was just confused what he was doing, you know? So that definitely had some thoughts in my head, right? And I started thinking, what huge combo or what hands does he have that play this way that beat me?
Yeah, let me just interrupt you here 1 second here, because there was a nice comment here in the live chat from Street Soul Lover. He says, because there are so few bluffs, would villain not have to reach into his weak value to bluff? Yes. And the thing that I would look at here that would probably be a good bluff in his spot would be Jack 10 suited here. Something like that. Some sort of 10 that continues on turn that's just going to be a better bluff here than checking back. That's one of the things that hops out in my mind.
Well, a thought I had in my mind too, though, was if he's gonna make a bluff, this is like the perfect board to make a bluff on.
Sure. But the question though
right?
is that like it becomes a harder situation. So it's 3,200 for 14. So $3,200 pot, 14 for you to call. So, you're getting what, like under 2.5
2 and a half, just a little bit under, yeah.
Under 2.5 to 1. And again, it's a much harder call here if all 9s jam, which just because when you look at this texture, there can definitely be, I think, a fair amount of 9x. And when you're in a situation where all 9s are going to jam here, that's still like a lot more hands. And then what are the bluff hands, right? Like, what are the bluff hands that he has here? Let's say he doesn't turn an ace into a bluff, and sometimes he doesn't find those non-intuitive bluffs like a Jack 10. Then it's, you're looking at sort of like front door diamond types of holdings. Remember, he called a pot size bet on the turn. Even though he's a double flatter, he still called a pot size bet on the turn. So you're really left with like what, Queen Jack, like the Broadway front door diamond types
Queen
of
Jack,
holdings.
King diamonds, yeah.
I don't know, man. I might give this one up, Brian. What did you do?
So I did call just because I thought this guy could be a little bit wider, just with even complete, just whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I tank called after a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I called, and he just kind of shook his head and mucked.
Just mucked, huh?
Yep.
Same thing. You didn't get a reveal, like he said, good call, and you just turned your hand over.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of, well, he kind of said good call mucked, but my thinking is he probably had some hand, like you said, kind of king queen of diamonds or king jack of diamonds.
Hmm.
But even if he had king jack, I think he may raise sometimes. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like I said, I mean, he's raised me with second pair on the flop with an ace kicker. So
And by the way, too, the easy way to do this, like this type of hand, like I'm just gonna let's just pretend it's a pot size bet just to make it a little bit easier, where you're getting 2-1. So you want to look at the combinations of bluffs to value. So if you can find less than 2-1 in combinations of value to bluffs, you can call. Like if there's 5 combos of, say, value and 3 combos of bluffs, you can call. If it was full,
oh
if it
yeah,
was 6-3, it
I
would be like
definitely
break
agree.
even.
I definitely think looking back at it, it should be a fold. Like
Hmm.
I full, yeah, I know it was probably not the best call in the world, just
Hmm.
some other circumstances, but I just thought the way the whole board worked out, it's kind of a pretty interesting hand.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then also too, a lot of those like Broadway front door diamond types of hands, like king, queen, king, jack, and queen, jack of diamonds, those get 3-bet off pre, like at a certain frequency too, right? I mean, I'd be 3-betting all of those hands pre. MP versus cutoff. He's supposed to be playing a robust 3-better fold strategy anyways, right? As we
Oh
talked
yeah,
about in the
yeah. No, I
beginning.
definitely
So
agree. But
interesting hand, Ryan. Glad for the
thanks, Bart.
results. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still kind of might lean towards fold. We're getting better
No,
pot odds, maybe
I
call,
agree
but
with you. I should
yeah.
have folded. I agree with you. So hey, sometimes it works out to be lucky, right?
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Bart. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Bye.